Hey, it's Adele from Let's Get Inkie, and today we're going full throttle fluoro. I have had a bit of a kick recently with the old fluoros, and I found some at my local cheap shop and I've been loving using them. So I'm working in my junk journal and I'm looking for a magazine image to start me off. So the page that I'm working on has some old, it's not dictionary paper, I think it might be a quotation book on the left hand side, but it's very, very thin paper. And then the right has deli paper, which is a little tricky to work with sometimes, which I'll talk about when I get to that stage. And the bottom of the deli paper has been folded up, so I could use it as a pocket if I wanted to, or as you'll see in a little while, I do stick it down. So I'm trying to figure out what image to use. I usually, when I'm looking for an image, I grab several so that I can have a bit of a play, and then the ones that I don't use I just put back in my collagey stash. A lot of these images were just a little bit too big for how the page was looking, and I was tossing up between these two. I thought this one looked very kind of like magical land of unicorns and rainbows, but in the end I do go with this one, and I'm cutting this person out, trying not to chop off any of their ears as I go. So when I start a journal page, I don't really have any idea of where it's going to go. And the great thing about journaling is that you find your process that works for you, and for me, I have in the past tried to plan pages from the start and have the end completely mapped out in my head, what I'm using, where it's going, everything placed. And along the way, I always seem to change it, and that frustrates me so much. And it makes me very anxious to get the page not looking how I originally envisioned it in my head. So I decided to just go with the flow. And then look, last minute, I was going to go back with this one. I tossed up for a long time. Usually I just go with my gut instinct, but I must have been feeling a bit indecisive this day. So I've got this person and I'm trying to work out what to do, because they, at the moment, they kind of look like they're flying because there's no ground, and the way that they're sitting is a bit of an awkward angle. So I've decided to grab my brayer, and this is a very non-professional way of putting paint on my brayer. Realistically, I should have had a paint palette that I could have rolled the brayer in, but alas, we're working with what we've got. So I decided to plonk some paint on my brayer and then just roll it over the page. Now, you could just use a paintbrush if you don't have a brayer. But I really love the kind of mottly look that the brayer gives, and you don't have any brush strokes or anything competing with it. I've grabbed my Use It Up journal, which, if you're new to my channel, it's a journal that I just stick extra paint in when I have extra paint on palettes, or if I use a stencil and the stencil's already dirty, I might as well add it to a page in here to start off a background for a future art journal page. And if you don't have a Use It Up journal, I can't recommend them highly enough. Just grab, I'm sure there's another sneaky journal hiding in your stash somewhere that you can get started, because it's very different to then go back and work on top of these pages that have paint already in the background, that have a jumping off point, even if it's just the colors that you're going to use. It's really fun. I have recently finished my Use It Up journal. Did I upload that process? There is a flip of my Use It Up journal. I'm not sure when that's out. It could already be out already, but I'm up to my second one, and then I have that big one as well. So this is a beautiful, beautiful book. It's called, I think it's called Lunch Lady, I want to say. And the paper in it is just delicious. And it's got so many cute illustrations. I actually have one of these that that my beautiful friend Zoe bought me, and I started as a journal, which I do want to continue on using because it's it's just really fun to work in a magazine. I decided to stick these little lady beetles to my deli paper. And the reason why I did that is because the deli paper is very thin, and if I was to even write, say, a quote with a ballpoint pen, you would be able to see it from the other side. And I really liked the way that the other side of the paper looked, so I didn't want to compromise it in any way. And so I just grabbed my glue stick and I'm sticking these lady beetles in. I'm tucking them behind the little flap just to help with making it look like a bit cleaner. And then I do eventually, I think, stick that flap down as well. Trying to figure out, I've got this tiny little slither you can see on the right hand side, and I'm trying to figure out which washi tape to stick there. And I am using glue with my washi. The reason being, as I've said in previous videos, the rental houses that I live in are often damp or very hot. The house that we've just moved into has absolutely no cooling, no air conditioning, no ceiling fans, no nothing. So I imagine it's going to get quite hot in there, and the adhesive things don't like the heat, especially the 45-degree Aussie summers, days that we can get where I live. So that's Celsius, not Fahrenheit. 45 Fahrenheit is very different to 45 degrees Celsius. So I do always try to, especially in journals where it's not protected behind a page protector, unlike a scrapbook layout, I do like to add a bit of extra glue. So in the Little Lunch Lady magazine, there was this yellow typed paper. It was one of the articles in there, and I thought it would match really well with the paints that I had used. So I'm just hand cutting some wonky stars, and I have sped this bit up. I don't cut stars that quickly. Wish I did. And I'm just sticking 5 of them down because I feel like things look better in odd numbers. It's just a bit of a habit of mine to either put things in 3s or 5s just to make it a bit nicer on the eye, I guess. So I'm sticking these down, and I slightly overlapped the star that I previously just stuck down. I overlapped it onto the lady beetle paper because I thought that would help merge those two papers together a little bit more, the painted paper down the bottom and the lady beetle paper. So if you're ever sticking down embellies, it's nice to overlap them over the edge just to connect, if you want to connect two of the papers together. I should have got a bigger piece of paper, really, to stick that on. I like to put a piece of just normal printer paper under my image so that, especially if it's something like this that's not just a basic rectangle, if I have any extra gluey bits, I can always catch them before they get stuck to my work surface. And I inevitably put my finger or my project in them. I can't count the amount of times that I have accidentally glued parts of my project to my desk and then had to rip them off. It's just inevitable. So I'm adding a doodly border to my stars, and I'm using I think it's the food ball pen from Pilot. I want to say it's Pilot, or is it Pentel? I've had a mind blank. I think it's Pilot? Food ball. Yes, I think it's Pilot. And it's not waterproof, so just be wary of that. If you're including it in your art journal, you need to include it as the top layer and not one of the bottom layers, as I learnt the hard way a little while ago. I'm adding a quote down here with my Uniball Signo Broad white gel pen, and I'm just writing that across. I felt like I needed another bit of white because there was white on the background of the book page on the left. There was the white of her pants, which was very, very white. And then on the right-hand side, there was no white. It was just the cream background of the lady beetles, and I didn't like that. I felt like it needed something to make the white go across the whole spread. Luckily, I could fit my quote in just. It's always touch and go because I don't plan out where the quote's going to go, or I don't write it in pencil first. I just give it a go, and if it doesn't fit, you can always cover it up with something. There's always something. Even if it's black paint, there's always something you can do. And then I felt like my girl wasn't popping enough. So I grabbed that same white pen and I outlined her right on the edge of the magazine clipping. And then I felt like it needed a bit of extra something, so I did a double outline. Not messy, not doodly for once. I don't know, when I outline figures, I feel like I need to do just a bold straight line, not a doodly line, because otherwise it makes them look extra hairy. I know that sounds stupid, but it's just in my mind, it's how I see it. But that's the end of this video, peeps. I hope you enjoyed this and it's inspired you to dabble in a bit of fluoro, or to hand cut some images from text paper, or just to even give junk journaling a go, or art journaling a go if you've never done it before. All right, peeps, I will see you with another video on Inkie Quill next week, and then back on here in the week after. Bye.